fast. It's really weird. It's like...
Was it just a big vibration, or did it feel like you had a flat or something?
It felt like way rolling. Way too rolling, like in a straight line. Like I moved the wheel a little bit, the whole car would move a bunch.
Something like going to gearbox, so we came straight to the garage. We're changing out what they call the whole back half of the car, which will include the gearbox, axles, brakes, everything. We had an incident leaving the pits where one of the drivers kissed the wall, took out the right rear wheel and tire, and we started having more aggressive tire wear on the right rear than we had earlier. We went back to the garage, replaced the control arms upper and lower, realigned the car, put a new tail on it.
This is a race, you just can't have that kind of stuff going wrong. The driving was excellent. We never put the car off the road, nothing. Everything was good there. The driving execution was good. It was just a couple of the minor parts. Once you bring the car in here and sit around for 30 minutes, it's going to be pretty tough to get back. There's not much more you could do, but what we did, it's just one of those things that happens in racing.
Redemption. It's a logical and all-consuming quest for anyone who experiences defeat. Level 5 Motorsports' pursuit of redemption begins some 2,500 miles west of Daytona in Southern California, in the shadow of the San Gabriel Mountains. In 2009, for the first time, Level 5 entered a Daytona prototype car in the Rolex 24 at Daytona, a grueling 24-hour race that pushes both man and machine to their absolute limits. After an unsatisfying 9th place finish, the team has vowed to return to Daytona in 2010 and leave with a different result. Level 5 owner and driver Scott Tucker is fully aware of the challenge his team faces.
You got drivers from all over the world to participate. I mean, these are the best of the best teams, the best cars, the best drivers. So, you know, to win the race or even really get to the podium is quite an accomplishment, and that's our goal. We'd like to be on that podium.
Competing primarily in the Ferrari Challenge, the Sports Car Club of America, and the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, Scott Tucker has more than 36 victories in a relatively brief career. Applying lessons learned from his business success, Scott surrounded himself with the best talent in racing, like David Stone, a former Porsche team manager and a consistent winner for more than 2 decades. David serves as team manager for Level 5 Motorsports.
I would define him as the consummate racing team manager. We wouldn't be sitting here today without you know, what he brings to the table.
I've never seen a driver more dedicated to his passion and to develop his ability in a race car than Scott is.
For the team's second driver, David Stone recruited an old friend, Christophe Bouchut. The veteran French driver has won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Total 24 Hours of Spa, and the Rolex 24 at Daytona.
He's probably in the world among the elite endurance drivers there are. We started racing together about 2 years ago, and you never know how those relationships are going to go. And fortunately for this one, it's worked out really well.
I get on this straight gas.
It's a really great atmosphere inside the team, and for me, after all the season I did, it's why I decided to, for the moment, to stop almost everything in Europe and to focus on this new team, and in order to try to build and to make something here.
After just one podium appearance in the Grand Am Rolex Series in 2009, the team will once again play the role of underdog as it competes against some of the world's best factory-sponsored teams in the most prestigious endurance race in North America. Searching for an edge that will bolster his team's chances in the 2010 Rolex 24, Scott Tucker is reminded of his youth and the first car that captured his imagination. To this date, the distinctive sound of a Ferrari engine has yet to be heard from beneath the hood of a Daytona prototype car. Level 5 Motorsports hopes to change that.
The Ferrari engine from the Genesis, I mean from its start, is a pure racing engine. All the other engines in the Daytona prototype class weren't built as racing engines. The Ferrari, it comes to you as a race engine. So with that and all the other things that we learned, we think it'll be very competitive.
Steve Dinan has built BMW racing engines with unparalleled success for more than 30 years. But he, too, has an affinity for Ferrari. So when Scott Tucker approached him about building a Ferrari racing engine, he did not need to be persuaded.
We got very excited about this racing project and fell in love with the cars and the technology in the cars and understand why people are so passionate about Ferraris. So we've decided to move ahead with Ferrari performance models, Dinan Ferraris.
For Dinan, a former race driver himself, that means reinventing the wheel, or in this case, the engine. But first, his newest creation must show it is reliable enough to survive 24 hours at top speeds, something many engines simply cannot handle. Just 6 weeks before the 2010 Rolex 24, the team will spend 6 long December days testing the performance of 2 Dinan Ferrari engines, a 4.5 and a 5-liter displacement, both modified for the Daytona prototype.
We're here at Fontana to put as much time on both of these engines as we can and see how they hold up, see what the durability is like, and then hopefully come away from here with the decision that we're going to go ahead to Daytona and run one of these Ferrari engines this year.
That may be a lot to ask, however. When Steve Dinan was developing his BMW racing motors, he went through 6 engines over a 2-year period before he reached perfection. And that's a low number when compared to most new engine programs. But before it can prove its worth, first, the engine must start. Over an 8-hour period, the crew tries more than 24 times to get the engine to start and idle. The day will come to an end with no resolution to the problem. But the Fontana experience is about much more than the inner workings of 2 engines. It's about the internal chemistry of a young racing team that is about to undergo a radical transformation. In 2010, Level 5 will bring 2 520-horsepower purpose-built racing machines to the big dance, with 2 new engineers and 6 new drivers. Later that night, with the car's immediate future still uncertain, the newly reorganized Level 5 team meets for the first time. The meeting is led by Graham Taylor, a veteran of Formula One racing who will make his debut at the Rolex 24 as engineer of the number 55 car.
For sure, I'm motivated to get the Daytona 24-hour on my CV. The car that races there, you know, the fast car that races there at the moment is the Daytona prototype, so I need to learn as much as I can about this car during this test and the Daytona test the second weekend in January. And that's my motivation at the moment, to gel with the team, bring my experience to their organization, work with the drivers, and make the car go as fast as I can.
Graham Taylor's disciplined style and no-nonsense approach are evident from the start.
In the afternoon on Sunday, I want to run all the drivers through the car, so we want to be up and running with live pit stops, proper pit stops. Sunday afternoon, may throw in a few curveballs at that point, like nose changes or back in after a stop or whatever. But we want to get to Daytona as prepared as we possibly can. There's been a massive investment here from Level 5's point of view to make sure that we're ahead of the game. And I'll try and keep it on the straight and narrow.
Jeff Brown, the engineer for the number 95 car, will compete in the Rolex 24 for the 21st time. He finished second in 1997, but is still chasing his first Rolex 24 victory.
It sounded like a great opportunity with a well-run team, and I'd been competing against them over the years, and I think I'd rather race with them than against them.
To complement these experienced and proven engineers, Scott Tucker and David Stone have assembled a dream team of superstar drivers. The plan is for Scott Tucker and Christophe Bouchut to drive both cars at the Rolex 24. In addition, 6 of the best drivers in the world have been recruited to fill out the roster. 4 of them have been flown in to test the new Ferrari engines at Fontana. Richard Westbrook, a Porsche factory driver from London, is a 2-time Porsche Super Cup champion, and just 2 months earlier won the FIA GT2 title.
For me, it's the way my career is going. I want to make the step into prototypes, and I'm really grateful for Level 5 for giving me that opportunity.
Another Porsche driver, and Richard's teammate for most of the FIA GT season, is Frenchman Emmanuel Collard. Manu was part of the 3-man team that won the 24 Hours of Daytona in 2005.
To win a race like this, you need to have absolutely no problem, just fuel and tires, and no problem on the track, in the traffic. You have to be really concentrate in traffic, especially, and of course no problem, no mechanical problem if you want to win.
American Ryan Hunter-Reay, Rookie of the Year at the 2008 Indianapolis 500, comes over from the IZOD IndyCar Series for his 5th attempt at the Rolex 24.
I'm very impressed with what they've done here. Everybody on the crew is really working hard to make this happen, so when it comes down to it, there'll be a lot of pressure on us to get this win.
And Sascha Maassen of Germany, an American Le Mans Series champion and Porsche factory driver, has won 2 GT class titles at the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
This year, the 24 Hours, the biggest challenge will be that we have a new engine that is very, very promising, but it has not promised to be good over the distance. So that's the only thing that is questionable, but it's important for a 24-hour race that the engine runs for 24 hours without any hesitation.
The track goes hot at 7:30 a.m., but the car is still in the garage. Despite their best efforts, the team has yet to get the Ferrari engine to idle.
With the throttle bodies that are on the car and the linkage, and I believe probably the throttle position sensor, they need some fine-tuning and adjustment. The driver was having a bit of trouble just moving away from a standstill, and I think the engineers are working on that, and it sounds to me like they've made a lot of progress. The bigger thing will be to see that these engines get as many miles on them as we can.
After 4 more hours of emergency surgery, the ignition issue is finally resolved. The Fontana test can begin in earnest. Christophe Bouchut takes the 5-liter Ferrari engine for its first run on the modified 2.5-mile road course at Auto Club Speedway.
Christophe Bouchut spent most of the morning in it, fine-tuning the drivability issues. The key thing is the motor's still out there going round and round with no real hiccups.
Scott Tucker is the second driver to experience the new engine. After going to great lengths to take Ferrari where it has never gone before, the results are reassuring.
It seems a lot quicker in 1st through 4th gear than the BMW engine we drove last year. Quite a bit quicker, I noticed it right away.
We've just finished Scott Tucker's 2nd run, which was very good, nice and consistent, reasonable lap times, nothing wrong with the car, nothing wrong with the engine.
Sascha Maassen is the 3rd driver to climb inside the cockpit, but he doesn't get very far.
The engine really was really good. We had only one issue, and that was not even related to the engine. It was a driver issue, burning a clutch when leaving the pits. I won't say who that was, but anyway.
Hours later, the car returns to the track with Sascha Maassen back in the cockpit. He turns in the fastest lap of the day and the highest speed at more than 180 miles per hour.
We ran about 380 miles today, 137 laps. We've got good fuel mileage numbers to start working with, and we'll start seeing where we can improve on that. I'd say we walked away with a really good, productive day.
It's 8:09 a.m., Sunday, and the Ferrari is back on the track. For Jean Marchioni, Level 5's technical director, the melodic, high-pitched hum of the engine echoing off the speedway walls means one thing. For the moment, at least, his work is done.
Everything is a challenge because in racing, many people talk about planning and things like that, but so many things change minute by minute. Like the car is going around the track right now, everything is running good, like you can hear it, but it can be like in the next corner the car is off the track and we have to change things, to repair things, and it's as we go we make it happen.
Jean Marchioni's brakes soon comes to an end. With Ryan Hunter-Reay behind the wheel, the first Ferrari engine bites the California dust.
I was just on the back, or actually the middle straight here, just straight line, first, second, third, fourth gear, and then fourth gear, and it just felt like the bottom dropped out of it, you know, made a big noise and it sounded like a grenade went off, and that was it. Big hole in the side of the block.
We've got bits and pieces coming out the side of the crankcase on the driver's side of the car. And in all likelihood, it lost a rod. It may have lost something else first.
So it started out push.
I just couldn't.
Went,
I couldn't
and the
hustle
rear
the
started
car
to go
as
up
much as I'm used to.
because of that engine, non-engine braking.
Yeah, yeah. And then over here in the twisty bit, you'd get it turned, and then the rear would overreact, and you'd get it turned, and the rear would come out, and you know it just kept. There's a section, a bunch of lefts.
Yep.
All through there, it's.
Did that get worse as the run went on?
Yeah, a lot worse.
Yeah.
Dusty Renteria, Steve Dinan's race department manager, shares his befuddlement with Jean Marchioni.
I'm curious, frustrated, mad, everything else. So I don't know. We'll see. Just have to look into it a little more.
You know, it's part of why we are here. We have to do these kind of things.
No, absolutely. Yeah. No.
It's
I hope everybody's as understanding as you, because it's a difficult thing to stomach at the time. But
it's part of a growing pain when you come up with a new engine. It's
I know
things we have to go through.
Even though this is a disappointment and it's unfortunate, we'll now move to take this engine out, put the 4.5-liter engine in as planned. It'll just be early and carry on with the test.
The Dynan engineers feel the second engine should be run for no more than 300 miles, then taken apart and examined. But as his 18-hour day comes to a close, that's not what David Stone wants to hear.
Well, nobody discussed it with me, and I can tell you that we came here to test and endurance test these motors, and I would not run this motor in a 24-hour race or even think about taking it to one with only putting 300 miles on it. There will be no other opportunity to test this motor other than at the official test in January, where you only get very short sessions. So that's not an option. We need to know that this motor will either stay together for as many hours as we can actually get on it here at Fontana, or pull the plug on running the Ferrari at Daytona and run 2 BMWs.
The Dynan and Level 5 crews work well into the night. The 4.5-liter engine is installed and ready by mid-afternoon Monday, day 4 of the Fontana test. The car is on the track for 80 minutes before the team calls it a day. The drivers, eager for more time behind the wheel, are anxious for tomorrow to arrive. But during the night, something unexpected happens. It rains in Southern California until 7:30 the next morning. The team loses more precious time. Team manager David Stone and others drive their rental cars on the track to speed up the drying process. More than 3 hours behind schedule, the second Ferrari engine returns to the track piloted by Christophe Bouchut. Its performance is encouraging. But when Scott Tucker settles behind the wheel, the car refuses to cooperate.
Clearly it was, the gearbox was hung up between 2 gears, and we pulled the cartridge out of the gearbox and found that there was a broken magnet in there, and they're in there to pick up shavings and filings and things to keep them out of the oil and from getting into the other gears. Unfortunately, it broke, and it led to jamming these gears. So we'll take care of that, and we'll certainly take steps to prevent that from happening in the future.
In racing, the obstacles are as plentiful as the grains of sand in the California desert. For David Stone, Seeing the oil can as half full is more than a personality trait. It's a survival mechanism.
That's the way I always look at testing. Any day I'd rather have a failure of an engine or a part or a crash or anything prior to the race. You never like to see this stuff, but that's how you learn to prevent those things in the future. So it's all about being optimistic and seeing the bright side of the situation and learning from it and taking that knowledge and going forward and having a better car and a better team.
With Scott Tucker behind the wheel, the 4.5-liter engine records the fastest times of the Fontana test. It is nearly 3 seconds per lap faster than its big brother. And then it was over.
Turn the engine off. Scott, stop the car, shut the engine off, please. We saw really high crankcase pressure, so we stopped the car. I got oil smell, a lot of oil fumes in the cockpit. Car's off, set here right before 10. Okay, they're gonna come and get you.
We don't really know what it is to the time the engine builder opened the engine, but we think it's like upper end related. Like in our world, it's pretty much the top of the engine, what is maybe a piston, maybe a valve, like something was to do with the top of the engine. And we will know a little more tonight when the engine builder take the engine apart.
In the next week, team owner Scott Tucker, with advice from his staff, must make a critical decision. Which is greater? His determination to win the 2010 Rolex 24 at Daytona, or his desire to win it with a Ferrari? With both engines headed back to Steve Dinan's shop in Northern California, Level 5's Fontana test has ended. The final day, which was to include 12 hours on the track, now becomes focused on a different kind of racing. Racing to get in and out of the car as quickly as possible.
We try to be really quick in this kind of situation, because if we have to change the driver and just change tires, it will be only 25 seconds. Like we need to be under 25 seconds for sure.
Engineer Graham Taylor and 3 of the European drivers are running late. But with one of the world's top race drivers at the wheel, there is little concern about missing their flights. Jean Marchione and his Madison, Wisconsin-based crew are the last to leave. It will take 3 flights, a total of 14 hours, to get them home by 8 a.m. on Christmas Eve. But it is not the long journey or the anticipation of family gatherings that occupy their thoughts now. It is the memory of a fallen teammate. 1 year earlier, Level 5's lead technician, Eduardo Catamartori, was tragically killed. Eduardo, known for his sense of humor and outgoing nature, grew up not far from Fontana. Auto Club Speedway was his home track. This is where he earned his first victory in racing.
Eduardo, it's was a person like you. When you meet him, like 5 minutes after, you knew who he was. Like he wear his feeling on his sleeve, like it's like this American say you have. But he was really passionate about what he was doing, and he was like all the time in good spirit. Like a few months back, his father decided to put his ashes on this racetrack, and it's a little difficult part for me, but it's because it was somebody who grew up through motorsport, like a big part with me, and for like he's blowing us away right now.
3 weeks before the race, Level 5 Motorsports arrives at an unusually frigid Daytona International Speedway for a final round of testing without the Ferrari engines.
The decision was made that we want to have a good result here. We were already committed to 2 cars, and the best way to do that was just to take the Ferrari out, set it on the shelf, and move forward with 2 BMW tried and true engine packages.
The reason you run a new motor in a test like that is you expect a failure with a brand new engine, and the goal is to identify what the weak link in the chain is, fix that, and then test it again and find the next weak link until you've increased the durability to the point where you think it's race worthy.
The Dyna BMW engines are the engines that we've run last year. They have been running in the series for 6 years, so they're very well developed. It's a good package. We proved that last year coming into the series and taking the car to the pole at several different places. And we're very pleased with them, and they're 24-hour proven.
She may not drive a race car, but the clear winner on this day is Mother Nature.
You know, it's unprecedented. It's snowing in Daytona. It's one of those things. Like I said, it's racing.
We really needed this test session to kind of get a feel for where we're going to be in the 24, but as you can see, everybody's just parked in the garage, so we can only do what we can do.
I've been here when there was ice on the track before and we couldn't go out right away, but that's the first time I've seen snow here.
The Fontana test settled one important issue, but did little to prepare the team for a 24-hour race with 2 BMW-powered cars. Behind the scenes, the concern is that by spending so much time testing the Ferraris, the ambitious and determined Scott Tucker has left team manager David Stone with an almost impossible task, and the weather isn't helping matters. For 2 established European drivers, the 3-day practice session is their only chance to acclimate themselves to a new team prior to race week. Sébastien Bourdais, a native of Le Mans, France, is a 4-time Champ Car World Series champion. He has 2 second-place finishes at Le Mans and won the total 24 Hours of Spa in 2002 with Christophe Bouchut.
I came twice here, in 05 and 06, and it was not the best experience ever, but the race is cool. I mean, it's one of these big classics that everybody wants to put on his resume, and I think it's, when you come here, you can feel the excitement and the fact that this one is not like any other, it's just like the big ones.
Lucas Luhr, a native of Germany, is a former Porsche factory driver and longtime teammate of Sascha Maassen in the American Le Mans Series. Lucas was the Grand Touring Class winner of the Rolex 24 in 2001 and has captured 3 GT titles at Le Mans. In a Daytona prototype, he won the pole at the 2006 Rolex 24 and finished 3rd. 7 months earlier, at Le Mans, Lucas crashed his Audi R15 TDI into a tire wall during the 7th hour of the 24-hour race. The car could not continue. But David Stone, who worked with Lucas early in his career, knows such accidents have been few and far between.
Back then, I drove for him, and I think he wasn't really impressed by me because I was really young, like 19, 20 years old, and a little bit a wild boy, and didn't really listen to the team, what they were saying. But over the years, you learn, you get some more experience, and you get a little bit relaxed yourself. So he got Sascha Maassen and Emmanuel Collin, and of course I know both of them very well. So they said if I want to join them or join the team for racing. So I said, yeah, why not?
Lap times for the number 55 and 95 cars are among the fastest recorded during the practice sessions. But David Stone isn't sure what that means.
I think we were second quickest of the group that was here, and a lot goes on in practice times, official practice times, and you just never really know how that's going to translate when you get back here.
The team returns to Daytona as scheduled. There's no turning back. But the lingering question is, are they ready? Team manager David Stone approaches these final days of preparation with his usual dose of cautious optimism.
The best thing about being a young team that's considered, you know, an underdog, I love that, you know, because it's when people tend to underestimate you, and I would always be happier being underestimated by my competition because, you know, they may overlook something themselves while they're not considering you.
As Level 5 enters the morning practice in preparation for the afternoon qualifying, the driver lineups for the race are set. Scott Tucker and Christophe Bouchut will drive both cars. The others will be divided according to height and size. Emmanuel Collard, Sascha Maassen, and Sebastian Bourdais will team up in the 55, the short car, while Ryan Hunter-Reay, Richard Westbrook, and Lucas Luhr will share the 95, the tall car. Grouping the drivers by body type makes it easier to find a compromised position for the pedals, seat, and steering wheel, which cannot be altered during the race. The only piece of equipment that can be easily adjusted during a driver change is the seat belt.
You have to make a compromise because every driver has something particular that he likes. One driver has a driving style that prefers a little bit more of a pushing car, or some other prefer to drive a loose car. And but then you have to find a car that suits everybody. This is not easy, and it has to be quick as well.
I think also that's a little bit the key, you know. If you have 3 guys on a car, they are really get along with each other well, I think then everything is a little easier, you know. You don't have to fight each other.
The drivers in the 55, on average, are older and more experienced. And with an accomplished mercenary assigned to lead the attack, it's clear this car is considered Level 5's primary weapon. The 3.5-mile road course combines the Tri-Oval Speedway and its 31-degree banking with a narrow but flat infield track and the tricky bus stop chicane.
It's a unique course. It's fast. There at the start-finish line, we're doing about 200, which is about the maximum speed that we do in the Daytona prototype. But the banking is unique, and you can gain or lose a lot of time on the entrance of that. So that is probably the most technical part of the course, the entries to both of the bankings, because of the speed that you can win or lose there.
Our top speed, lap time-wise, isn't the best yet, but this is only the second priority, because in this race we have to survive for 23 hours, and our car is good to do that.
Qualifying for the Rolex 24 is just 4.5 hours away. For engineers Graham Taylor and Jeff Brown, this is crunch time. They must precisely evaluate and make crucial adjustments to the 500 horsepower beasts on which their fortunes will ride. Firmly establish a positive rapport with the sometimes delicate egos who will clutch the reins for 24 hours, and most importantly, keep the cars out of trouble. For the 95, the race nearly ends before it begins. Because the Rolex 24 includes 2 competitive divisions, drivers of the faster Daytona prototype, or DP cars, must avoid entanglements with the slower Grand Touring, or GT cars. But as Lucas Luhr has been reminded, that is not always an easy task.
I just was in the infield, coming out of the horseshoe, and there was a slower car. To the right, I passed him, and then he turned in on me, and he hit my rear wheel, the right rear wheel, and spun me around. So, and it's quite quick there, so I hit the guardrail. And I hope there's nothing, major damage on the car. I'm upset, and I'm, sad for the guys. They have to work hard now. So, but they're good guys. They're gonna fix it. It's just racing, racing. Some things happen which you're not expecting. That's it.
Jeff Brown has been around long enough to know the difference between reacting and overreacting.
Well, we're just going to go make sure it's all right.
I'm sorry, but if you get hit there, what you want to do? I mean,
nothing you can do. Don't worry about that.
The reason why you are here is because you are a pro. Right. Okay.
And the initial diagnosis is encouraging.
The car's back in the garage. We're going to assess the damage. We're well stocked on spares. The Riley spares parts truck is here. so it won't be an issue getting it back together. The important thing will be to do it methodically, make sure the car is ready for the race or for the next session.
Let's prepare this car for the race. Don't cut any corners just to make qualifying that are going to bite us on Saturday and Sunday. Right. So that's kind of our mentality. It doesn't look like, we'll see for sure, but the chassis didn't get bent or anything, so it's just replace the parts and away we go.
Sorry, Scott.
No, it's okay. It should happen.
There. What you want to do?
The 95's mechanics have just 4 hours and 30 minutes from the time of the crash until the start of qualifying. As that time ticks away, it becomes less likely the car will be ready. As the 55 makes its final practice run of the day, Scott Tucker receives the final word on the 95. It needs more time to heal and will not be ready for him to drive in qualifying. But Jeff Brown remains upbeat and hopeful.
It looked a lot worse than it was. You know, you can hit one of these cars bad enough to bend the chassis, then you're in serious trouble. But, you know, the Riley's a strong car, and they design it so that when you hit something like that, it breaks off the suspension points rather than crushing the actual structure of the chassis. So it did its job.
As the 15-minute qualifying session unfolds, Christophe Bouchut and the 55 are frustrated. After 3 laps, it is in 12th position, the slowest car on the track.
One of the tricks of the qualifying strategy is to find a clean lap. And, you know, with everybody trying really hard, that's not always easy to do, even on a large, long track like Daytona.
By lap 6, the 55's best time has improved, but only to 8th position.
Don't worry, you got one more after this one. At least one more time after this one. Calm it all down and you can go again, don't worry.
With the pressure on, Christophe Bouchut produces a final lap of 1 minute, 41.463 seconds. He will start the Rolex 24 in 6th position.
Second flag. P6, Christophe, nice last lap. P6. I do my best, but the car was not easy to ride.
It's a good time. I mean, we had some problem this morning to find a good setup. I give my best, but the car was pushing, and also the traction exit of slower corner was not wonderful. So it is what it is. But I believe we can be happy of this time if we consider all the problem we have this morning, also with the 95. So it's not too bad. And of course, on a race of 24 hours, to start on the 3rd row doesn't mean nothing, you know, it's not an handicap.
The pole position goes to the number 10 car, a Ford Dallara owned by SunTrust Racing and driven by Italian Max Angelelli, a Rolex 24 winner in 2005. The 2nd position will be occupied by another Ford, the number 60 car, driven by Brazilian Oswaldo Negri Jr. Both men recognize the significance of their positions, especially with rain in the forecast.
It's definitely a big advantage, being in the first row. And that is the beauty of the 24-hour, because you can't change the car for a rain, because it's a 24-hour race, so you can have rain and dry and rain again. So what you want to do is to set up the car for a sort of end of the race conditions, and we more or less know that it's going to be dry. So then you will see a lot of cars with a dry setup driving in the rain. That is going to be really difficult for all of us.
Obviously, being up front is a great advantage. Those cars in the wet, they lift quite a lot of water from the track, and it's just like driving, you know, through a cloud. If you're way back.
Well after the start of the nighttime practice session and nearly 8 hours after it plowed into the tire wall, the 95 is back on the racetrack.
We had a problem with the installation of the flywheel, and the whole back half of the car had to come off. And in the end, we ended up losing about 10 or 15 minutes out of the final practice because of that. So clearly we wouldn't have made the qualifying. and we missed part of the practice. But we got out there and everything's fine.
The 95 turns in the 6th fastest time during the 2-hour session. It's even faster than its stablemate. But when it starts the Rolex 24 with Scott Tucker behind the wheel, the 95 will assume the 13th position in the 15-car Daytona prototype field.
It was extremely unfortunate for the 95 car to have its accident in the very first session yesterday, and that put not only them behind the 8-ball, it put the whole program, because Jeff had a set procedure that he was going to do, and I was going a slightly different way, and then we were going to come back and merge. And Scott was the worst benefactor from all of that, because he got such little time in the car. To squeeze him in before the race start and the qualifying, etc., has been extremely difficult to do.
The morning sunrise on the day before the race offers a hint of the storm that is to come. But for now, there is a feeling of calm and reassurance in the Level 5 camp.
And we're very happy. I mean, we looked at our plan and we're actually ahead of where we wanted to be, even with the accident. So the accident's completely erased. We're ahead of schedule, and we're running better and more competitively than we really anticipated, even with the setback on the accident. So we're pretty excited.
Both cars skip the morning practice as planned, so their engines can be replaced. The new BMW engines are identical replications of the ones used in Thursday's practice, except Steve Dynan has made several adjustments in an ongoing effort to increase performance.
Well, I can't tell you exact details because that's top secret. But there's some minor upgrades to the engine for the race, which actually should improve both reliability and power.
These are the men who will undoubtedly push Steve Dynan's engines to their limits. These are men who refuse to acknowledge the word defeat in any language.
The one thing you'll see across the board is unbelievable competitiveness. Hate to lose. And carried to the extreme. You know, it's whose rental car is faster. They go for ice cream at the end of the day. It's whose ice cream cone is slightly bigger than the next guy's. I mean, it is that competitiveness to the nth degree that all champions have, I think. And that's what these guys have. Now they have to temper that. They have to act like that's not the way they really feel, but deep down inside, when it really comes out, that's the way they feel. They want to win. They want to be the fastest. You put 3 drivers in a car at Daytona through a rotation, and they'll stand there. You didn't see them reading a book, but I guarantee you they were standing there watching that monitor, seeing if their co-driver was a 10th quicker than them. That's what sets the really good ones apart from the guys that just do it average.
With less than 30 hours to go before the race, it's time to smile big and meet the press.
The front row, from the far end, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Christophe Bouchut, Scott Tucker, Sebastian Bourdais. In the back row, Richard Westbrook, Lucas Luhr, Sasha Maassen, and Emmanuel Collard. First, let's hear from you, Ryan Hunter-Reay.
It's a great way to start the year.
I'm really excited to be here.
It's definitely an interesting race.
You know, it's just so exciting to be here with these guys.
It's really nice to be back.
Really excited.
We have a really strong team.
The team is good. We've got a great team.
Great team, great lineup. The quality of the team.
We have a good lineup, good guys.
We have 8 good drivers.
That's a great point.
Good drivers.
And the quality of the drivers.
The package is good.
A good package.
Competitive package.
I think everything should be good. Everything is good.
We are really strong and really competitive.
The guys are working hard.
The competition will be really tight here.
The competition is always really tight.
I think everybody here would agree with that.
We're working real hard.
We're hoping to really go for a nice result here.
I'd have to say we've got a really good chance.
Hopefully we can put it all together.
We hope to win this race.
We've got the experience to do it.
You just need a little bit of luck and then you're there.
I'm really hoping for a bit better luck.
A little bit of luck.
We just need to go about it in a calm manner and be there in the end.
We need to be there at the end.
Being there at the end.
And I will do all my best to visit the victory lane.
When a reporter asks how the drivers managed to share the track with slower GT cars, Scott Tucker lightens the mood.
Okay, I'll let Lucas take the lead on that.
I knew this was coming. No, normally, I mean, it's not a big deal, but in my case, I mean, if you get hit in the back, there's nothing what you can do about it. And
you were too slow then if you get hit in the back.
And No, it's just some guys, they have a lot to do with themselves, and sometimes I have the feeling they are a little bit lost. But it is like this. It's for everybody the same. You have to deal with it. And we had our come together already, so it won't happen again in the race, and that's good like this.
The final practice is uneventful, which is good news for Level 5.
We got all the drivers rotated through the cars, we got the radios working, all the little minor details that no one really thinks about besides just going fast. So, right now we stand prepared and ready to go.
To be honest, we're about where we deserve to be when you're racing against the likes of Gainesco and Ganassi that have been thrashing this championship for a long time. You know, you can't underestimate those guys. They do a lot of hard work, and there's some pretty bright guys, and they do their development, and the drivers know the cars, and they know each other, and the mechanics know the cars, and they know each other, and so it goes on. And it very much is a team effort, and we're still bonding as a team, and it feels like that, to be honest.
I have some reservations in my gut from a lifetime experience that I wish I didn't have today. Going into this race. Maybe I'll feel a little bit better tomorrow, but until Sunday afternoon, nobody will really know what the situation is. But I would say I'd like to think we have as good a chance as anybody this year at a win.
It's the morning of the race. Looks like the weather's going to be a little cloudy this morning. They say that it might be raining at the start. Our goal is, first you've got to finish the race. So what we'd like to see is both the cars running reasonably well around noon tomorrow. That gives us about a 3-hour window to really see where the race is, and that's really when our strategy kicks in. This race is like any of these long endurance races. It's a crapshoot. You really don't know, but all in all, it looks like we're positioned for a good result.
The autograph session gives thousands of fans a chance to interact with some of the biggest names in auto racing. Because the Rolex 24 is held when other leagues are in their off-season, stars from Formula One, IndyCar, and NASCAR have the opportunity to put their reputations on the line at Daytona. Juan Pablo Montoya, a winner in Formula One, kart, IndyCar, and NASCAR, has won the Rolex 24 twice. He's back for the 2010 event, again driving for Chip Ganassi Racing. Four-time NASCAR Sprint Cup champion Jimmy Johnson will drive for the Gainesco Bob Stallings team. His teammates include two-time Rolex Series champions Alex Gurney and John Fogerty. And the DP field features several past IndyCar champions, including Dario Franchitti and Jimmy Vasser.
You're definitely competing against the best in the world, and you're so focused on just your own driving, to take a step back and then realize who you're racing against, it would be probably a little intimidating.
After 2 decades of hard-earned success, Christophe Bouchut knows every race presents an opportunity for greatness and an equal chance for disaster.
It's something where you have to build step by step, and more you are climbing high, and more it's easy to go down, and each time you have to show all the time what you are able to do. Even if you are 3-time world champion, and even like me, you won the most prestigious 24 hours race in the world, like Le Mans, Daytona, and Spa. It doesn't matter. You can burn everything in less than two days.
One hour before the scheduled start, the heavens open.
I don't know that it really changes the strategy of the race other than being extra careful out there, staying out of trouble, because there'll be cars going off and going off the track and dragging dirt and mud and debris back onto the track. So the main thing is just caution, extra care.
We're trying to keep the inside of the car as dry as we can. With these closed cars, they steam up pretty quick in there. Luckily, we got just before race week here, we got delivery of 2 brand new heated screens from Europe, which hopefully will be the key that we need to keep clear vision for the driver. I consider when we go onto the racetrack to be almost war. That I want to win more than they want to win. I want to do it in a way that justifies going about it the way that I go about it. And at the end of the day, if I don't do my job well enough, we're not going to win the race.
As a race engineer, most people would think the challenge would be making the car fast and making it last and things like that. Daytona is much more than that. It's almost a management, it's a technical management position where you know you're going to have problems, so your crew has to be prepared. And it's not simple things like you're out of gas, put gas in it. There are things like you have brake changes to deal with. When are you going to make a brake change? You don't want to do that under green, you want to do it under yellow. So it becomes a big management task. You cannot have one thing wrong, and you have to be precise for 24 hours.
A Dynan BMW has never won this event, but this could be the year. 5 of the 15 Daytona prototypes and 1 GT car are racing with Steve Dynan's engines. After 364 days of preparation, most of David Stone's work is done before the race begins. His team's fate now rests in the hands, feet, and split-second reactions of 8 drivers who are about to face the unpredictable.
Stop your engines.
Now the green is out, but also the double yellow. So the race and the clock has officially started. The 2010 Rolex 24 at Daytona is underway. However, we are behind the Mazda pace car.
The race proceeds under the yellow caution flag for 19 minutes. Due to the persistent and heavy rain.
They've done 5 laps under caution. Finally, we see green flag waving here. We're under racing for real now in the 2010 Rolex 24 at Daytona.
Christophe Bouchut wastes little time.
Oh, is there a fight going on? Let me have a part of this, says Christophe Bouchut. Look at the black car there, the 55. He's won this race overall before, and the Frenchman really wants to get back up on top this year.
On lap 12, Christophe Bouchut moves into 3rd place, and on lap 15, he takes 2nd.
I'll tell you, a man who's on a mission right now is Christophe Bouchut. He is currently up to 2nd in the 55 car there, so he is chasing down Mamo Gidley.
Just a half hour into this maddening marathon, Christophe Bouchut can almost smell a victory. The question is, can he see it?
Surprisingly, looking right there on Christophe Bouchut, you can see the windscreen, wiper only goes on the driver's side. And look, it just hung up there. That's something that happens a lot too.
As his visibility deteriorates, so does his ability to communicate. Christophe Bouchut and engineer Graham Taylor must now contend with a radio problem that seems to be worsening by the minute. As cars spin off the track around him, Scott Tucker shepherds the 95 car from 13th to 11th position.
Doing great, guys. Doing exactly what you need to do. Just staying in contact. Keep it up. Doing great. Doing great. Slower cars up in front of you. Pay attention. You're done. Clear all around. Clear all around. You got it. Nice job. Looking good, Scott. You're driving great. Keep doing what you're doing.
This will probably bring out a full course caution because that car's not going to be able to go any further than right where it is right now.
Both Level 5 engineers take advantage of the yellow with unscheduled pit stops on lap 19.
You're getting out. Great job. Great job.
Ryan Hunter-Reay takes over for team owner Scott Tucker in the 95. The pit stop is a rough one for Tucker. After practicing driver changes with the 55 team all week, he was unprepared for the methods employed by the 95's crew.
That's totally opposite. We didn't practice driver changes.
Do you want me to pull you out and pull that stuff for you?
It's faster.
Yeah, put him out.
It's faster.
Okay.
You gotta pull. Yeah, dude. What are you guys'
We didn't really communicate on that. We did it in 23 seconds.
Okay.
The 55's first pit stop takes longer than desired, and the car drops 5 positions, from 2nd to 7th while in the pits. Communication remains a problem, but Christophe Bouchut doesn't need a radio to pass slower drivers.
This is Christophe Bouchut. Inside move there. So grabs another position, not a problem.
Whoa, had a little close call right there as he dropped the left side wheel tire into the dirt.
There was a driver change executed in the 95. Scott Tucker, team principal, stepping out. Ryan Hunter-Reay, IndyCar star, stepping in. You heard Ryan say to Kelly a little earlier, I just want to get in there and start carving him up, and that's exactly what he's doing.
Weather conditions were pretty treacherous. We made it through that. We picked up 3 or 4 spots and handed the car over to Ryan, so we're in good shape. I think both cars are sitting in the top 6 right now.
Scott Tucker has done precisely what was asked of him. Stay out of trouble and hand off the baton without dropping it.
Great job, Ryan. Great job, man. You're running away with them. You're running away with them.
Watch for those level 5, the 2 black BMW-powered Rileys. Huge investment from Scott Tucker and his group. It's run by David Stone and the gang up there in Madison, Wisconsin, and it is a first-class operation with a first-class driver lineup. Those 2 black BMWs will be contenders.
It's so hard, though, to expand to a 2-car operation, Dorsey, for this event. There are so many people underneath that awning and trying to get those guys to gel and get the chemistry so that when things go wrong, they work together as a unit.
And on top of that, Scott hired the best of the best as far as drivers, and it's sometimes hard to keep those guys' egos in check. They all are used to winning overall, so it might sometimes be not a good idea.
It's Christophe Bouchut there in that black level 5 motorsport car, taking the long way around the outside, really tight again.
Despite the challenging conditions, Christophe Bouchut continues to advance and flirt with danger.
Pretty wild stuff there from Christophe Bouchut, just trying to hang on as he went off the edge of the track. He's right alongside Ricardo Zonda. It's an outside move. Does this pay off, or is he carrying too much speed? Too much.
Good save. He got stuck on the outside.
If a race driver wasn't willing to take risks, he wouldn't be a race driver. But in the early stages of a rain-soaked endurance event, some risks aren't worth taking.
Yeah, I'd say there's not much grip right there, Calvin.
Yeah, he was very wide. Once again, we saw him the previous lap. He ran really wide up and over that curbing. And just using all of the racetrack. But he's pushing really hard, and I think that's one thing. You talk about the team managers, the crew chiefs talking to these drivers. They need to remind him right now this is a 24-hour race. Don't throw it all away. We've got a really strong car, a really strong driver lineup. We need to be around tomorrow.
Graham Taylor's car is all over the track, and his driver is incommunicado. And Christophe Bouchut's vision diminishes by the lap.
Bouchut needs a wipe. Anybody got a squeegee?
The condition was so worst. At the end of my double second stint, I had a problem because one car blew up his engine end of the track, and that splashed on my windscreen a lot of oil or liquid from the engine. I don't know exactly, but in the end, with my wiper on my windscreen, I couldn't see anything. It was really bad.
Visibility and other issues forced Graham Taylor to bring the 55 into the pits 8 laps earlier than planned. Sasha Maassen replaces Christophe Bouchut. Each moment of a pit stop is critical. For every second a driver sits on pit road, his opponents travel the length of a football field. For every 20 seconds, they cover more than a mile. This race will end on the track, but it could be won or lost in the pits.
At the beginning of the race, I was pushing hard, and well, when it's beginning to be dry, the car was really oversteer, and I was fighting, try to keep my position, and I oversteer a little bit too much, so I spun, but nothing happened. I lose 1 or 2 positions, but I immediately I go back in the same way without stop.
On lap 49, Ryan Hunter-Reay records the 95's fastest lap yet, and in the next 4 laps, he takes the car from 12th to 6th position. But after pitting for a tire change on lap 54, something doesn't feel right.
We got a problem in the car. Pit now, pit now. Pit now, pit now. That's what a problem with the all the wheels, figure out where the problem is. I don't know. You got to take the bodywork off. It's really weird. It's like, was it just a big vibration, or did it feel like you had a flat or something? It felt like way too rolly, like in a straight line. Like I moved the wheel a little bit, the whole car would move a bunch. If you can't find it, let's go back out there.
I hate to say it, but you know, you put slicks on in conditions like this, cold slicks on a cold track. I mean, sometimes it is so bad that the driver really does think there's something broken on the car. You can't believe it could be just the tires.
When we came in for new slicks, I went out, and there was a feeling like a disconnect in the steering wheel where you turn, the car doesn't react right away. It sits over and then turns, and sits over and then turns, and that worried me. And in this race, you're better to get it while you're coming by the pits than go around halfway, brake, and hit the wall.
The unscheduled pit stop consumes 1 minute and 51 seconds.
Man, sorry about coming in here, guys. No problem. We got 21 and a half hours to make that up. We'll do it. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're right there with them.
55 laps into the race, the 55 car is running in 13th position. After losing a lap on the unscheduled pit, the 95 is in 21st. Out of 15 Daytona prototype cars in the field, the 95 is last.
And it all is cumulative through the course of the 24 hours. So, you know, you could end up at the end of the race and say, well, if we'd have just done this different, we'd have had, you know, 2 minutes there or 5 minutes there or 30 seconds here. In the end, you don't know how it's going to play out. So the key is to stay focused on all the details.
Then the 95 gets lucky. On a full course yellow, Jeff Brown instructs Ryan Hunter-Reay to keep the car on the track.
We're going to stay out here.
Long enough to catch up with the pack, return to the lead lap, and move within striking distance of the leaders.
I think we're going to do it. I think we're okay here. Way to go.
Cautions are inevitable in this race, and we just kept a quick pace, and when it was time to go, we caught around past the pace car when we got way by and got our lap back and got out before the leaders came by. So we got the driver change done before the leaders came by. So all the plans so far.
Richard Westbrook replaces Ryan Hunter-Reay in the 95. He passes several cars and takes advantage of a full course yellow to move into 5th position. 4 hours have passed since the 3:32 p.m. start. 4 of the 44 cars that began the race are now out of it. Both level 5 cars are on the lead lap. But David Stone knows this race has barely begun.
When you start a 24-hour race, or really any races, the jitters are just like anything else, probably going to Broadway, you know. But, you know, things settle in and people get in a rhythm and relax a little bit. And hopefully you don't have any big problems that get you wound up again. And we encourage the guys to take care of themselves, well-rested, and eat and drink and get off their feet when they can, that sort of thing. And I think they're all doing a great job.
Sasha Maassen has spent the last 2 hours at the helm of the 55.
We are starting the race with a little bit too much downforce. So we are able to go flat in some corner that we were never flat before in the practice. So it seems to be a good sign. The only problem is we are a little bit too slow on the straight. But that's okay. For 22 hours, we want to stay like this. In the last 2 hours, we're going to change that.
The Chip Ganassi Racing number 2 car with a BMW engine built by Steve Dinan has led the race for 84 of the first 125 laps. The world-renowned engine developer hopes at least one of his 5 DP cars will be there at the end.
Everybody's been running real strong, and we've led a very good portion of the race with the combination of the cars. Long way to go still.
A lead-footed Englishman who's become rather accustomed to winning races is quickly closing the gap.
Good job here. Just keep pushing. You're doing great. You're within 5 seconds of the leader. Fastest car on the racetrack that lap. Fastest car that lap. Great job here, Richard. Great job.
In Richard Westbrook's career debut in a Daytona prototype, he has rallied the 95 from 13th place all the way to second position, 4 seconds off the lead.
I'm satisfied because we've got a good car. I have to say, a really good car, and it's surprised me because we've had such little running in the practice with all the problems with the crash and everything. So Jeff and the guys have, you know, I don't know how they do it, but you know, they've guessed a really good setup. I mean, Ryan was quick. We just, unfortunately, we lost a lap because he thought he had a problem with the suspension. But we got it back and we're in the race. We're definitely in the race.
Lucas Luhr is having a great run here today. He'll certainly be trying to make amends for that little incident that he had on Thursday. Created a lot of work for the crew. He has finished on the podium here before.
Manuel Collard is the car, that black Crown Royal BMW powered Riley starting to zero in on Memo Rojas. This guy is an overall Rolex 24 winner. He knows how to get it done.
I tell you what, Scott Tucker means business in terms of his own driving. He is putting the work in. He is very fit, and he is not afraid to employ the best in the business to get his team to that top tier, like the Ganassis, like the SunTrust, like the Gainsko, like the Mike Shank operations.
After taking over for Sasha Maassen, Manu Collard has guided the 55 from 9th position to 5th. On lap 156, he moves into 4th because Lucas Luhr can't seem to avoid the slower traffic. The 95 is forced to make another unscheduled pit stop. As a result, the 95 drops from 3rd position to 8th, almost a full lap behind the leader. But once more, a yellow flag rescues the 95.
Stay out. Okay, you're going to get to go all the way around so you'll pass the pace car. The race leader is right behind you. When you see the pace car pull out, you'll get to go by it and get all the way out.
His car is back in 3rd place, but Jeff Brown knows at some point the fortunate breaks will stop coming. When Manu Collard relinquishes the 55 to Sebastian Bourdais, the car is in 4th position.
I'm happy because we are in the same lap than the leaders, so this is very important for us. But the car is a bit too, at the moment, it's a bit too difficult to drive. It's a bit too much unstable on the braking, and it's not so easy. Maybe with more grip on the racetrack, it will be better at the end, but for the moment, it's a bit tricky.
The 95's luck hasn't run out yet. Another caution period allows Lucas Luhr to give level 5 its first lead of the day.
Lucas Luhr has climbed to the top aboard the NPN Racing level 5 BMW powered Riley.
The guy behind me, is it Montoya? He hit me in the side. He's an idiot. Remember, we finish this race first to have a chance to win. He wants to be an idiot.
Watch Montoya. He will be relishing the opportunity to have a go at Lucas Luhr.
Juan Pablo Montoya, a legend in open-wheel racing, is coming off his best NASCAR Sprint Cup season since he switched over in 2007. And he hasn't forgotten his narrow defeat here in the Rolex 24 1 year ago. It seems he may be a little anxious.
He stacks them up. He stacks them up. You're not allowed to initiate a pass. You can't break that line before you cross the stripe here.
Montoya will not have liked that a bit. Tries the outside.
And makes it look easy around the outside of Lucas Luhr. Luhr cannot fight JPM, or does he come back now? No, Juan's too far out in front.
Jeff Brown's advice to his driver to let the feisty Colombian have the lead proves wise. In 2.5 hours, the 2 car will be out of the race with engine failure. Before his stint is over, Lucas Luhr burns the car's fastest lap of the race so far. The 95 team may have lost the lead, but it has savored a most pleasant taste and is hungry for more.
We need to go down to the pits because we understand Lucas Luhr is a little hot under the collar. Kelly?
Well, he got out of that 95 and looked pretty animated talking to his team manager. Lucas, what happened out there?
It was the previous safety car period when I was scrubbing my tires and suddenly I felt a big bang from the right side and Montoya was hitting me. I'm pretty sure he didn't do it on purpose. It was for sure a misunderstanding, but I was a little bit shocked. I said under the safety car, and we are not in cup racing, so it was unusual.
I did really close racing with him up at the high banks, like 200 miles an hour, very close, and he's a fair guy. He's absolutely professional, and you can trust him that he doesn't do any stupid things, you know, that somebody gets hurt. So I had really a lot of fun and enjoyed it.
Sébastien Bourdais in the 55 moved back into 4th position and hold it for the next 22 laps before overtaking 3rd. Moments later, a problematic pit stop knocks the 55 back into 8th position. Meanwhile, Ryan Hunter-Reay and the 95 hold the lead for 5 laps before another caution brings it into the pits.
The last time I was in the car, it was wet, so I didn't really get to drive in the full dry yet. So the car is nice because in a 24-hour race, you don't want it to do anything bad. A lot of cars, it's really good when you start out on new tires, and then it goes really to bad, to loose, or to big push. But right now, we're just kind of, it's just pushing a little bit, and it's not loose, and you know, it's not going to put the fastest race lap on there, but it's going to be fast, and we just have to stick it out here. This is like driving in a car to the racetrack right now, so we're not racing yet, and that's the mentality we need to have.
When the green flag waves, Richard Westbrook and the 95 are in 5th position. Christophe Bouchut and the 55 are in 7th. With almost 16 hours left in the race, anything can happen. During Sébastien Bourdais' impressive stint in the 55, he adjusted the brake bias so it was more to his liking, increasing the emphasis on the front brakes. That's not an unusual step for a driver to take.
How much brake balance did you have?
But unless the change is recognized in the car's telemetry data, or the driver promptly mentions it to his engineer or teammate, the next driver could be in for a big surprise.
On the brake balance, it looks too heavy on the front. Go rearward on the brake balance. If you need to, your choice, but it looks a bit heavy on telemetry.
Be careful.
At 11:43 p.m. on lap 237, the 55 makes contact with another car. It goes straight to the garage with front brake and suspension damage.
When I drive the car, apparently there are really too much brake on the front. It's really strange because we had a brake balance of 57 right now, and normally we must be 51, and especially it's not totally dry condition. So I mean, we was running before that more on the rear, and in my first lap, I go straight at the bus stop, and I locked the front wheel, but nobody was there.
His first real-time lap, he locked up at the chicane and went straight over the chicane, locked the front tires. I immediately looked at the brake balance, and then where Sébastien had been running it was a bit more forward than Christophe is used to, so I went on the radio and said, go rearward on your brake balance, go rearward on your brake balance. And he did, but it wasn't enough, and he did the same thing the next lap. And unfortunately, there was another car there.
Kind of took out the right front corner on this, the radiator, the front splitter, and a few other associated parts. I'm not exactly sure what all, you know, until you get into it.
Since the beginning of the race, we haven't had any straight line speed, so I've trimmed the car out as much as I dare to try and get some performance, and you can see that we've got some performance back. It made the car fairly nasty to drive. And the guys are doing a good job, but they have to play a lot inside with their tools inside the car with the anti-roll bars and the brake balance. And Christophe, having driven in the rain and then getting in on the dry on a car which had changed quite a lot, was just a difficult thing to do.
There's many cases where teams have had adversity where they're in the garage and they go back and they spend, you know, an hour or sometimes more and come back to win that race. And the one thing that you never know in a long race like that is that you might be the person that's, you know, fallen through some problem, and you get back in it and you kind of think you're down, and then your competition has a similar problem.
Meanwhile, back on the track, Richard Westbrook has taken the 95 to the front of the pack.
You are P1. P1. Stop from behind, and then the foremost car with Darren Law driving is third.
1 hour and 20 minutes after their sudden departure, Christophe Bouchut and the 55 returned to the track, 42 laps behind the leader. The mix-up over the car's brake balance and subsequent collision has likely cost the 55 any realistic shot at a podium finish. But next door, things are starting to get interesting. At 1:38 a.m., another successful stint for Richard Westbrook in the 95 comes to a close.
Pit now, you're getting out.
He led the race for 3 laps and spent another 21 in second position, separated from the leader and third place car by less than a second. Competitive duels like that are what every driver lives for.
Yeah, it was really good, and you can see where the other cars are quick and where we're quick, so, you know, it's given me the impression that we have an absolutely fantastic car. We just need some more power. There's not a lot we can do about that.
But after doing everything he possibly can to keep his team in the thick of it, Richard Westbrook is helpless to prevent what happens next.
Waiting on fuel, still waiting on fuel. Okay, shut the engine off, engine off.
What was it? Just stop. You couldn't move it out. No, it stopped. No, they can't.
We couldn't get the seatbelt loose or tight, and there's a marshal standing there and saying, "You're not gonna leave the pits, my friend, if your belt is not tight." There's a buckle, a metal buckle, and all that duct tape got stuck in, and it's like a zip tight, you know, it's tight, and so they had to cut it out with a knife, and it was like, to be honest, pain in the ass.
One of the guys had put some orange reflective tape on them. The concept and the idea is good, but it was the application that caused the problem. Seems like such a silly thing, but that just is one of those deals that you can see in a 24-hour race. Any little thing can cause you a huge problem.
The pit stop drags on for 2 minutes and 56 seconds.
We can push it if we need to. No.
The untimely debacle plunges the 95 into 7th position, a full lap behind the leader. Richard Westbrook's hard work, 10 hours of extraordinary effort by the entire team, and months of preparation have been sabotaged by a piece of tape.
Painful, it really is. It's something so trivial as a bit of tape on a seatbelt. It's really, really tough to take at the moment, but we'll get the lap back. We've got a great crew here, really spot on the strategy, and hopefully they'll get us that lap back. You know, because I feel like we deserve it. It's going absolutely according to plan. Apart from that completely trivial seatbelt disaster.
The 55, meanwhile, is assessed a stop-and-go penalty for making contact with another car. A car that, unlike the 55, was in contention for the lead. The 75, owned by Krone Racing and driven at the time by Nick Janssen, would limp into the garage with front-end damage. After the incident, Jeff Brown discusses the situation with a member of the Krone Racing team as Nick Janssen looks on.
Get hold of Bouchut and kick him in the bollocks really, really hard.
The only thing about that is you're going to have to wait in line because I'm going to kick him first.
Oh, no, I want you to give him a kicking for me while he's still warm when he gets out of the car.
We're both getting up on it.
Fucking idiot.
Later in the race, Jeff Hazel, team manager for Krone Racing, would have this to say about the incident.
Our cars ran perfectly throughout the race. Unfortunately, a car 40 laps down hit us into the barriers, just enough to damage the front upright, and that took some time to repair. That's why the car's now quite a few laps down.
25 laps after the seatbelt catastrophe, the 95 has moved back into 4th position, still 1 lap off the pace. But Jeff Brown has taken a gamble, hoping the front brakes would hold out long enough to be changed under a yellow, or at least during a scheduled stop.
Braking. Pit now, front brakes, tires and front brakes, tires, fuel, front brakes.
The pit has become a necessity 7 laps earlier than planned and does not go well.
You can reset your fuel while you're sitting there.
The brake change, that was a bit of a mistake. We know that we've got to change twice during this race. And what we also know is brake pad life wears a lot more, say in the last 40% than it does in the first 60%. It wears at a faster rate. And we let it go too long, and the pads got too thin, and then they almost weld themselves into the rotors, and the guys had a real tough time getting those pads out. Of course they did, but it hurt us again dearly on that stop. So we'll make that brake pad change next time quite a bit earlier so we don't go so low.
Okay, pump up the brakes, all the way out. Pump the brakes again, a couple times here, good. All right, watch the exit there.
After 4 minutes and 28 seconds in the pits, the 95 falls 4 laps behind the leader in 6th position. After 2 collisions that put his team 45 laps behind, one of the longest and most problematic driving stints of Christophe Bouchut's career comes to a merciful end at 3:15 a.m. Moments later, Lucas Luhr's frustrating shift in the 95 also comes to a close, and immediately, the still infuriated driver will seek out the crew member responsible for the seatbelt tape implosion.
Who put it on?
I put it on.
You cannot do this.
I'm not going to anymore.
We lost fucking 2 laps because of
I understand, I'm sorry.
As the engines roar into the deepest part of the night, Level 5's crew members steal fleeting moments of sleep. But there will be no shut-eye for David Stone and his 2 engineers, who leave their posts only when nature calls. Performing at peak levels hour after hour also takes its toll on the machines. At 5:09 a.m., just 29 of the original 44 cars remain in the race. After driving in silence for 15 minutes due to another radio malfunction, Sasha Maassen guesses correctly that it's time for a pit. When he delivers the 55 to Manu Collard, it remains 45 laps down. Level 5's hopes now rest with the 95 car. But despite fast laps and efficient pits, Ryan Hunter-Reay's latest stint ends with the car still in 4th position, 4 laps down.
The guys are doing a great job. We have some braking issues where the pads are going away quicker than we'd like, but you know, it's fun out there. We're having a good time. I can't believe they started this race at 3:30 though. Usually when you see the sun come up, you think you're almost there, and we're not going to be even almost there.
A caution gives the 55 crew a chance to work on the radio problem that has plagued the cars since the start. The result is a 5-minute pit, but at this point, the object is not to win, but simply to finish the race.
We're 16 hours in here at Daytona. Sun's coming up. It's kind of cold and windy. The number 95 car we're running in 4th place right now. It's just making real steady laps. We're hoping for some yellows that don't involve us, so maybe we can get a couple of laps back. It'd be great to get back on the lead lap if we could.
For the next few hours, as time and attrition claim more victims, the 95 maintains its stranglehold on 4th position. Only 25 cars remain in the race.
Take a look at this car, boys. Lucas Luhr, the right rear's been hit with something. The side panel off of the lower bodywork has come askew. See it there?
Yeah, that little fence. There's a lot of fence behind the rear wheel. Looks like it's come loose. The key there is he doesn't want it to cut down that right rear tire. It's heavily loaded as it is, and the cornering speeds, there you see it torn back.
Yeah, I think he's okay because it is torn back. Unless they don't like the way it looks and think that it's going to fall off, they might bring him in to have it torn off, but I think it's not rubbing the tires. It's good news.
The 55 is now 54 laps behind, but Sasha Maassen is determined to do whatever it takes to gain ground.
I think I damaged the car a little bit because I had a contact with a GT car. I showed him that I made a move, but he still decided to turn in, and then there were two cars on the same spot on the racetrack, which is never good. Luckily, there was no big damage, and we could continue, and then I had a nice fight with the 77 car, another prototype.
The 95 may be a long shot to win the race, but as it gradually narrows the gap on its closest competitor, a podium finish isn't out of the question.
And this guy, Ryan Hunter-Reay, is less than 30 seconds in arrears of Brian Frizzell. So no more errors can be afforded by the 6, otherwise the 95 is ready to pounce.
The sun's still not out, it's still cold, miserable, and windy. We're closing in on third place, though, in the 95 car, and I'd really love it if we could give Scott a podium here.
We're kind of battling with the number 6, the 6 Michael Schenck car to try to catch him, and we're pretty much holding our own.
Frizzell just went to spin it off. Too bad he didn't hit anything. I agree.
We started that session with them like 45, 50 seconds in front. We ended with them 28 seconds in front, so we caught them a lot.
It's going to be really tough if we can get them. To get any further up than that, we're going to have some kind of problem for somebody else. Or if we could get a yellow, maybe we could make a lap back or so, but it looks like it's going to be difficult for us to get, to win this thing.
Now Richard's got to go out there and lay down some good ones, and hopefully we'll have a fight for third here.
Richard Westbrook continues his team's solid work. It has taken 9 hours of painstaking effort for the 95's drivers to regain just one of the 4 laps they lost during the seatbelt and brake change pit stops. But at least they are still in the race. With Manu Collard at the wheel, the 55's exasperating day comes to a close when the engine fails and catches on fire.
We saw in telemetry that it just almost immediately lost crankcase pressure, so we knew that it probably cracked a piston or a cylinder sleeve, almost blew half the cylinder head off of the engine, and oil came out and got in the exhaust headers, and that's what caused the temporary fire. So the main concern anytime you have a driver in a car and there's fire is for him to get safely stopped, hopefully off the track. It all worked out fine. He got out safely, and the car was not severely damaged from that.
This is not how Graham Taylor wanted his first Rolex 24 to end.
Long races like this always throw up peculiar situations. I'm getting used to it. It's better to have all the bad luck on one car than share it amongst the team. So hopefully the 95 car can run clean till the end of the race and maybe even pick up a podium. Well, we tried to get a yellow.
Yeah, you needed to spin out or crash, like what you call it.
Well, we did grenade the right-hand side of the engine and spilled oil onto the
track.
Did you need any help?
No, we're good.
You got it covered.
Yeah, thanks. Unless you can push it out onto the track.
I'm going to get my stuff and wander back to the truck and sit in the warm for a little bit and watch the rest of the race.
As the race passes the 22-hour mark, the 95 remains one spot away from a podium finish, but it does not control its own destiny. When Lucas Luhr takes over, the 95 is 2 laps behind the third-place car, the number 6 Ford Riley. Under normal racing conditions, there simply is not enough time to bridge that gap. Richard Westbrook's long day is over. He has done everything he can to put his team in a position to win. Now he can only watch, wait, and hope.
Really, we need some of the other guys to have a problem to get on the podium. there's not enough cars on the track to cause safety car periods. When you get a safety car period, that's how we get the lap back. So I think we just got to run to the end and hope someone has a problem. Because I think we deserve a podium. We've really worked hard all 24 hours, the whole week, testing on Fontana, and it'll be so nice for the team to celebrate with us on the podium. So fingers crossed.
But the leaders show no sign of faltering. The good news is the 95 has a 16-lap lead on the 75 car in 5th position. Barring a complete collapse, Level 5 has a lock on 4th place, for what it's worth. And then the 95, which enjoyed its share of lucky breaks early in the race, receives one final gift at the expense of the number 6 car.
The 6th car is smoking. The 6th car is starting to smoke, Lucas.
Bad luck has struck again, with Allmendinger behind the wheel to Mike Shank Racing and the Ford Riley.
With the number 6 out of the race, the 95 moves into 3rd, and immediately the strategy changes.
Might be worth telling Lucas just to bring it down just another notch.
Don't cost yourself a position if somebody's close to you.
Yeah. I think we're going to back down the RPM on our engine right now. But we're ahead of the next car behind us, so we can afford to ease it back some. Since several teams has lost engines, there's been 2 BMW engines go this weekend, and maybe we can get off the podium finish. We've still got an hour and 15 minutes to go. Anything could happen to any of us still. But so we're going to be conservative and try and back it down a little bit, see what happens.
Just save our stuff. Short shift, easy on the brakes, easy on the gearbox, everything. We're just going to survive here. Nice and easy.
Basically, we're racing against ourselves right now because we're 2 laps down from the leaders, and we should be in it for the lead right now, but circumstances are what they are. But it looks like we got to go out there and fight for our podium finish. So there's a lot to do.
The 95 team holds its collective breath as its final driver change goes off without a hitch. The 24 hours will end with Ryan Hunter-Reay behind the wheel. Only a crash, blown engine, or some other calamity can prevent a top 3 finish now. And there's always a chance the front runners, in a tight race for first, will burn themselves out.
We're doing everything we can to, we're doing short shifting and doing a lot of things. We would like to get on that podium. The competition's tough here, but it's not over yet.
You have a 1/6 lap lead. Just go easy. We're good. We can't lose it. Bring it home, Ryan.
And the Action Express team are just seconds, just moments away from victory in the biggest sports car race, kicking the year off here at Daytona International Speedway. This is exciting stuff. The Action Express team on debut go to victory lane at the Rolex 24.
Way to go.
Scott Tucker has proved he can do in racing what he's done in the business world. Assemble a competitive team and lead it to success. With help, in this case, from David Stone.
Congratulations, man. First podium on the second try.
For only the second time in 21 tries, and the first time since 1997, Jeff Brown has engineered a podium finish at the Rolex 24.
It was a lot of fun. Oh, it was good. Yeah. 3rd is good.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Just your second time here in a DP and already on the podium. This must make you feel pretty proud.
Yeah, I'm real proud, but really take my hat off to all the guys. Ryan and the other drivers did a fantastic job, the team, the organization. And the competition here is so tough, but it was great. And really proud of everybody and all the work that they've done.
It's a sweet moment for Ryan Hunter-Reay who reaches the podium in his 5th try at the Rolex 24. For Richard Westbrook, who needed just one race to master the learning curve for the Daytona prototype. And for Lucas Luhr, who redeemed himself after crashing in practice. Christophe Bouchut did not drive the 95, but because he was eligible to do so, he joins his teammates in victory lane. And without his unfortunate run-in with the 75 car, the 95 might not have finished 3rd. The incident sent the 75 to the garage for about 15 laps. It finished 4th, 16 laps behind the 95. They outlasted the elements and persevered through hardship. They survived a jammed seatbelt and disintegrating brake pads. Through 24 hours of competitive madness, they were tested, challenged, and provoked. But they kept their focus on the task and their car on the track. Some Daytona dreams become nightmares, but for Scott Tucker, David Stone, and their Level 5 Motorsports team, the taste of champagne on the podium is a welcomed reward.
Obviously, you're always wanting to win. It's a pretty tall order at this race. So reaching a podium, I know several people, very prominent teams that have been here for 10, 20 years that have never reached it. So, it's an honor. We decided that we wanted to get to the top drivers, anywhere we could in the world. And, getting guys like Lucas Luhr, Sasha Maassen, Bourdais on the team, those guys aren't easy to get. They're the best in the world.
I have to say, because you've got so much time to think down the straights because they're so long here, and I was just thinking, I don't want to be anywhere else. The racing is just great here. It's mad. It's it's full on attack. There's no one's being conservative, and it was just real fun to be part of it. But then we had this stupid issue with the seatbelt, and it's a real shame. But I think when I wake up tomorrow morning and I realise I stood on the podium in my first DP race, I'll be absolutely over the moon.
At the end, you lost a 24-hour race because of 2 pieces of duct tape. I mean, that's ridiculous. But things like this happen. It happened to all the best, and it's like the drivers going out in the pit lane at night. They have won races, championships, and smashed the thing into the wall. I mean, it's the same kind of deal.
I could have kept going for a little while longer. It was really nice driving in a car that fit right, and like Richard was saying, we all hit it off right away, and we were all comfortable in the car, which makes a huge difference in a 24-hour race. Absolutely tremendous.
The last 3 or 4 days, we've had so much bad luck and so much adversity, and it would be easy for Scott to, make the situation more pressurized by, being, throwing things around. But he was totally relaxed about it. He said, "Don't worry about it. We'll get on with it. Let the team do their job." And he was right. And we didn't have that pressure on us this race, and I think that really helped.
I really had a good time. I mean, I really enjoyed the race, and I had a good fight going on with a couple of famous guys, and we were up there. We were up front, ready going for it, and that's racing then. You always expect the unexpected.
The 95 car, we had, I think, a really good group of people. Jeff Brown, this was my first experience with him as an engineer. I had gotten good references from people that I've known for many years in the industry, and he lived up to every expectation. And when I think back on it, those 2 things, the seat belts and the brake issues, if we just had the laps back from those, that was more than the amount of laps that we were down to win the race. But it's always easy to second guess and hindsight things, and that's a little bit of what I'm doing. But it's also things that you jot down, you don't forget, and the next time you're involved in a race like this, you just absolutely make sure those don't happen.
A lot of the little things that get in your way, but the main thing that was constant is that we had a real plan and a goal, and you know, it worked out.